What's going on, everybody? My name is Brent, and welcome to another episode of the Work in Progress at Night podcast. I absolutely hate that title. I hate that podcast name. I hate it so much, but it's the only one that wasn't taken, and that is a way to start your show is by saying that you don't like the title of it. But it's the only title that wasn't taken that you could easily like Work in Progress at Night, and then it would pop up on the podcast service. Anyway, and you could catch us every weekend. Well, okay, so you can catch us when I say that you can catch us, essentially. Like at this point, like I'm doing shows on Thursdays, I'm doing shows on Saturdays and or Sundays. It's just kind of happening when it happens. As a matter of fact, there he is. All right. We were worried that you were dead, man.
That's fair. I almost was.
Well, maybe you can elaborate in a minute. But as for my intro, so this coming Tuesday will be I'm getting feedback from somebody.
Not me.
That might be you, Jeremiah. Hello, testing. Hello.
Is that better?
Yeah, it is. It's a lot better. Okay, cool. Sorry, it's like I get distracted by feedback. It's not so much that it annoys me, but it's like hearing like anyway. So for all you lucky listeners out there who do listen to us on the podcast services, you're going to get a double drop this weekend. We're going to be getting put it the freezer downstairs. My sister got me ice cream.
Aww.
Now that sounds like a delicious treat.
Yeah, I know. I think I've already brushed my teeth for the night, but I think when we're done here, I'm going to say, fuck it. And I'm going to eat some ice cream tonight. But yeah, so podcast listeners, you're going to be able to get a double dose this week of podcasts on the podcast services. I did a special show on Thursday with Jalen and Ice, another member of Dudeless Chat. We talked about the Xbox podcast thing, so you'll catch that this coming week as well. Anyway, let's get the show started. Today, I'm joined by my lovely co-host Casey. How are you doing this evening?
Doing good. Just coming up from the dead because I was asleep for a while, and now I'm ready to rock.
Yeah. So like when you sleep during the afternoon, like do you work tomorrow because it's a holiday?
I do not actually.
You do not.
So I am just.
Nice.
I'm just soaking in the ability of not having anything to do.
Does that mean that you're going to probably stay up late tonight because you slept like during the afternoon and it's 6:00 where you're at now?
No. I only had about an hour and a half sleep, so that is definitely not enough to keep me awake all night.
Okay. And then the other lovely person who will be joining us tonight is Jeremiah from Dudeless Chat. How's it going, Jeremiah?
Oh, I can't complain. Another day in paradise. You know how it goes.
Right on. So, okay, since we're talking about anime tonight, let's kick it off with Casey. What have you been watching recently?
Well, been keeping up with Shangri-La Frontier, so got to see that fight, and Frieren, starting that one up. That one is definitely a lot heavier than I'm used to, so that one's taking me a bit longer to get through. But I did find out that one of my voice actors, the actor who does the main character Leon from Trapped in the Dating Sim, actually does the English voice of Stark from Frieren, or the warrior that's in Frieren's party. So that was honestly a good surprise to find out. Other than that, healing magic the wrong way, and I'm actually starting to go over Blue Exorcist again. So I picked that one back up and I started watching that one again.
That's right. There's a new season of that airing right now, right?
Yep,
Yes,
there is.
yes.
After what, like 10 years or something? Like how long has Blue Exorcist been off for?
Not as long as Bleach. We'll go with that.
Okay. Okay.
Around the same time of Sword Art, I want to say, or at least in the same vein,
Mhm.
That's
because it's
another
back in my college days when I started watching it.
Bryce Papenbrook special, right? Isn't he the
Mhm.
main character in Blue Exorcist?
He
That's good.
is.
That's good for him because it's good that one role is coming back after he's done with another, since he's now done with another role. Um, uh, anyway, Jeremiah, what have you been watching lately?
So I have actually been jumping through a few things. One thing to note is the Apothecary Diaries. It's an
Okay.
amazing anime. Is really well done, and I would say that everyone needs to pick that up if they can. Delicious in Dungeon. I read that a long time ago, and now they've got it on Netflix in anime form. It is absolutely fantastic. Everything I wanted from it, shouldn't she, baby? Um, of course, we're going through Solo Leveling, which y'all should be catching on the show. You should have already known. And
Yep, yep.
but my smut, if you will, as I say, my guilty pleasure. I just finished the 100 Girlfriends Who Really, Really, Really Love Me, and it is terrible. It is my type bad, and it is great. And I think that if you want a good laugh, that's it. It's definitely weird. So, yeah.
And as for me, I guess like um I'm not watching too much as far as like the winter anime goes. Of course, I'm watching Solo Leveling, and I'm also like every few weeks I get caught up on season 3 of Classroom of the Elite. So that's going on. What I'm currently doing right now is I'm rewatching Demon Slayer because it is the plan that next weekend that Casey and I, when I'm in California, go see the first episodes of um Hashira Training Arc in theaters, right? That's the plan, Casey, right?
That's the plan. Hopefully.
Yeah. No, I mean we're gonna do that. Like it's gonna happen. Um
This Casey, this isn't a plan he's making, this is a warning.
yeah,
More
no.
like it's
Gotcha.
happening. So like,
Um,
No, no.
willingness is
This
not
is
was never a factor. Like
he's saying it's a plan, but it's actually a directive.
that's yes, exactly. So today we're talking about, as the title of this podcast suggests, we're talking about the most pointless debate ever, dub versus sub. This was
Uh,
Jeremiah wanted to have this conversation, so we're
I
doing
did.
it
I
here.
did.
I thought you were going to say Goku versus Superman. I mean, that's a kind of an obvious debate right there.
Yeah.
Goku
Obviously it's Goku.
Goku would body Superman.
Ta-da.
Goku
But yeah.
bodies everybody. um and what sort of, it's my understanding that what sort of kicked this off was I've been slowly bringing Jeremiah over to the dub side. I've been slowly doing it, and Casey's our resident dub hater, right? No, just kidding.
Yes,
Casey
I
watches some dubs. And it sounds like
Ta-da.
he's watching the free Ren dub, which is really good. The free Ren dub is really good.
Oh, it is. It is. I especially for something that's it's not heavy, but like you do have to listen, you do have to take in a bit. And
Mhm.
so it's just like I knew, and plus I'm already like, more than a season behind, so it's like, I might as well just, put on the English for it. So it's like, that way I don't have to pay attention and I can take in multiple episodes at once.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, for me, that is actually a big downside to subs. For me, is that I can usually only do about like 2 episodes worth. I can only do about 2 episodes worth at a time. Um, unless I'm like super engrossed. But generally speaking, it's really only about 2 episodes at a time that I can do. there's yeah. So Jeremiah, since this was sort of your topic, why don't you give us your thoughts on some things and your experiences as you've been coming over to the dark side, as most weebs on the internet would probably describe it.
Hey,
The
I'll
dub
take it, man.
side.
So you know how it is. I started anime at a very young age. Dragon Ball Z on Toonami, coming home, third grade. I mean, it was really big. The West had never seen anything like it before, at least not in such a mainstream media. Because when you talk to older folk nowadays, like, oh, I watched anime in the 80s and Space Battleship Yamato. And I'm like, oh, okay. Anyway, so, like, but you didn't have Moltar and freaking Dragon Ball Z. Anyways, so
No,
Toonami
they had Astro
is what.
Boy, man.
I mean,
Sorry, go
so
ahead.
Toonami, no. Toonami was absolutely fantastic. So I'm walking through like I started in dub, but when
Mhm.
I got the ability to get online and start catching up on these anime, like it all was just mind blowing when I'd have friends who'd be telling me about things that are going to happen in Dragon Ball Z, and like 2 to 3 years later, suddenly it's happening. It's like, how did they know? It's like because you
Mhm.
couldn't really conceptualize it when you're younger, and then you find out about sub and you start watching it that way, and that became like my main medium in middle school and high school. And then you start comparing. So the dubs weren't necessarily bad when I first experienced them until I start watching things in sub, and I realized, man, there's just a lot of energy. There's a lot of emotion. There's a lot of actual like investment into these characters for the Japanese voices
Mhm.
for the original the OC anime stuff, right? And then you come back to the dub, and it's like every child apparently talks like they are like debate team AP English, like highest form, like using words that a seventh grader would never use, like how are you so nonchalant? It's like I didn't even know what nonchalant was until after high school. It's like what the like you see all these things. It just shows you it's not it just didn't get me as well. So yes, I went to sub and I loved it because I felt like that was the most energy, and I've told you that most energy, most
Mhm.
effective, like most investment because it's not just people just taking this and dubbing it over. Like it's actually it's not them taking the original source anime anyway and then putting their own stuff to it and having to do filler words to make sure the mouth isn't moving past the English. It's,
Mhm.
it's like I get it, but I never liked that. I really like the sub, and you know that I was a hardcore thing until about recently. There were some dubs I liked, but not like sub, and I usually
Mhm.
chose sub over it. And recently, especially in the last since knowing you, it's like okay, I'm gonna try it in the dub. Maybe I'm being too critical, and you're damn right. Like some like this is obviously a culture where the dub actors here really jumped into it because this is their career and this is something
Mhm.
they want to invest into. And you really see that and you hear that and you feel that from some of the most illustrious people like Ian Sinclair,
Mhm.
Bryce Papenbrook, Chris Sabat, freaking just I could go on and on. And and Monica Riel, different
Mhm.
voice actors that yeah, and I'm throwing I'll admit I don't know voice actors like y'all do, but I know
Mhm.
those names and I have to say they've been doing really well. And it was recently that I found myself wanting dub over sub, and it hurt with Jujutsu Kaisen.
With
I'm like,
Jujutsu Kaisen.
no, with Jujutsu Kaisen. I was like, I can't believe I'm doing this. But it's like, but I have to agree, the dub is fire. The dub is absolute fire. Minus, so where it used to be that one or two voices I might like in dub, but the rest are
Mhm.
Now it's I like most of the dubs. I don't like the so actually I think the death row, if you remember, came from My Hero when I was like, I like every voice except for Ochako. So it's like, and
Mhm.
every time I'd say it and talk with you about it, and like you'd be like, that's just one voice. It's like, God, he's right. It's like that's just one. If I like everything else and I don't like her specifically, I could just mute her. Like it's just like if it's that big of a deal. So either way, now that's my perspective. I know it's a little bit of a long start, but my reason for this is because recently the sub and dub war is starting again,
Mhm.
with solo leveling, you know. And we talked about it a bit, but we're also seeing it. It's like, well, you should watch it in Korean, which was its original language. And I'm seeing all these different things. I'm like, how stupid is this war? You know, in this day and age, it's just your preference, kind of like y'all were just saying, where you can
in
only
theory,
watch one or two sub.
in
Go ahead.
theory, in theory, Attack on Titan should be watched entirely in English or in
Or
German.
German. I was gonna say, or in German, like,
if they're if
yeah.
they're going to use the argument as like, oh, that's the language that it was originally in, is like, well, I mean, I think Mikasa is the only character that has any sort of Asian descent in Attack on Titan until season 4 when the Azumabito are introduced.
To be honest,
Yeah.
that's actually kind of an interesting standpoint to take, because even, a famous anime, a famous, a famous anime like Full Metal Alchemist, technically that is supposed to take place in a alternate version of Germany. Hence why
Well,
all the
Europe in
military.
general.
Yeah.
Europe in general, they take for the main place, of course, is Germany, but it's Europe in general, especially
Yeah.
for like the positioning and stuff like that.
Mhm.
So it's like, yeah, I mean, technically, we should have, yeah, I agree with you. So it's like, so that's why I was like, I mean, we brought it up, and I keep seeing it more and more, and I'm like, guys, let's just end it. I was
Mhm.
like that last year with the console wars. I'm like it this year with sub versus dub. Guys, if you can't appreciate how much these voice actors are really putting into their work, then I don't think you should be
Hey,
having the topic. Like,
so
I don't think you should be having the conversation.
if you want to argue like the lack of emotion in something, I dare
Mhm.
anybody to go watch Black Clover, Sword of the Wizard King in English. I dare anybody to go watch the Black Clover movie in English, because Dallas Reed puts, like, honestly, it's one thing that I really like is when actors, like, they have a role for like years, right? And like they get to know their role, they get to embody it, and then all of a sudden, like, they're in it. Like, and I think a good example of that is Dallas Reed as Asta, and then Justin Briner as Deku. I would even go as far as saying Justin Briner as Ayana Koji in Classroom of the Elite. Just like so good. And like and so it, like, it's when people are like, oh, it lacks emotion, I go look at some of those, and I'm like, there's like lots of emotion here. Like there is, like, maybe it's a different kind of emotion. Maybe it's an emotion that Americans can understand a little bit better, but there's still a lot of emotion that is happening here. Um, not to say not to say that it doesn't exist in the Japanese, because of course it exists in Japanese. I mean, although I am primarily a dub watcher, there are quite a few anime that I watch both, because I don't want to miss out. Like when My Hero Academia comes back in a couple of months, I'll be watching it in Japanese first. When Dr. Stone was airing last year, before they did same day dubbed with the second core, I was watching the first core of Dr. Stone season 3. I was watching in Japanese first, and then English second. Dr. Stone, I will fight anybody who says the Dr. Stone dub is bad. The Dr. Stone dub is so hilarious. Like, and
It's
like
fantastic.
in a good way, like
It
not
is.
like in a bad way, but in a good way. Um, but Casey, what do you like? You do a lot of your stuff in sub, but like, what are your thoughts on this whole ridiculous conversation?
Well, for me, yes, I do watch a lot of my stuff subbed. But the reason why I do watch it subbed is because I'm one of those people that I watch it when it first comes out.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't really care about the subbed. I've been used to watching things subbed, even if we're not talking about, Japanese shows. I still have subtitles up for regular English shows,
Oh,
and
okay.
I still read stuff. So it's like it's nothing strange to me. So I don't really mind it. I will state that there are times where I prefer one
Sure.
over the other. Um, I can't really think of anything that's coming to my mind
I
for
know. I know.
subtitles.
For me, I will always like, and I say this all the time. I absolutely prefer the sub for Call of the Night to the dub. The dub for Call of the Night is so bad the dub for, like, and it breaks my heart because I love Call of the Night, but the Call of the Night dub is awful.
Exactly. And I have a couple on my end where it's just like, uh, I can only stand the dubs. I mean, I know I've said it before multiple times here on the podcast. I do not like the subs of Goblin Slayer.
Mm.
I prefer the dub over the subs because they do things with sounds that the subs do not. Like it actually sounds like Goblin Slayer is inside his armor whenever he talks. You hear that echo.
Oh,
Whereas in the
really?
subs, you don't.
Interesting. That's cool.
So that's
I might
why
have
I
to
prefer
watch some
that one.
I might have to watch some Goblin Slayer sub now just to kind of see the comparison. That's cool. I'm glad that's yeah, because I do like that when because and I recently finished the first season of Goblin Slayer and it was awesome.
Mm.
Like, oh man. Jeremiah, have you watched Goblin Slayer?
No,
Oh, that's
Yeah,
too
no,
I can understand why.
we
I highly
yeah.
doubt his wife would let him watch that.
like if we ever get a chance, we need to have like a degenerate anime night. Just like because Jeremiah, you were like, I need to start watching Mashoko Tensei again because I feel like I need to. What is it? You told me that you might like have a misunderstanding of how certain things went down.
Maybe, yeah.
Casey. Okay, do you mind if I say it to Casey?
Sure.
So Casey, he thinks that Rudius groomed um Sylphie when I never saw it that way. Did you see did Rudius groom Sylphie, Casey?
No, because you also have to figure out that most of the time that he knew her, he thought that that she was a boy.
Not most of the time.
A
Like
good
it was
a
pretty.
good portion. They were friends for a while before they got caught in the rain, I believe.
Yeah, that
Right, but it's still years went by because she was still friends with them before the scandal between Paul and the maid
Between Paul
the
and the
other
maid?
party member. Yeah. So my
Yeah, that's true at least for a good what,
but
8
but they but
months?
they kind of stopped but they stopped talking to each other for the longest time and they basically like I guess they did start talking again before he got before he was sent off to be with his relatives. But no, I never saw it as Rudius grooming Sylvie. I never
I would
saw it that way, but I don't know.
I would see. I mean, it's first of all, it's definitely creepy. That is
yeah.
just that I will not deny. It is creepy because he still has the mentality of a 40-year-old man. But I do believe here's one thing I do have to think about when it comes to isekais and being reborn in another body is the child body is always going to affect the mind. No matter what you try to do, you're still going to act like a child because of different chemicals and different things going into your mind. When Rudius was forced to leave, because that is something to take note. He was literally forced because he was planning on trying to help Sylphie get into the school along with him. He was no longer thinking about her as something to do. He was trying to keep her alongside with him until his dad literally knocked him out and sent him on his way.
So okay, I can understand an argument for like obsession, but I don't think I could get behind an argument for grooming.
Hmm.
I feel like there's a difference between the two. There like Rudius does they're like, and I know that we're getting a little off topic, but no, honestly, Mashoka Tensei is a really good dub. Like Mashoka Tensei is a really good dub. Um, and that one's actually hard for me to watch. That one's actually hard for me to watch in Japanese because the dub is so good. Um, but what was I gonna say? Yeah, I can understand an argument for like obsession over grooming, and I feel like there's a very distinct difference between the two. Anyway,
Yep. I think
I mean,
the
but
fact that he still also remembers her.
so here's the thing, and this is where this is and this is the part where it's like at one point he and he thinks like, I'm gonna make her into the perfect wife, and it's like that right there is at least the starts of it. This anime slash media, this manga, pushes the bill on a lot of things, from the reason why he was pushed out of the parents' house during all that stuff, his death, who he is, what it is. It definitely pushes a lot of bills. It has its own controversy to it, and it is
Mm.
definitely one of the shining examples, if you will, of the Japanese culture is different than or Eastern culture is different than Western. I shouldn't just say Japanese. Eastern culture is different than Western culture, But it's like, if that's not at least the starts of grooming, I don't know what is. And the only plausible argument to that situation is, but we never saw it happen. It's like, I mean, it's not like it followed him day by day. We don't know what the crap he was doing. But he had the thought in his mind. It definitely was a route that he was considering, and it would make sense. It's just, there's all these things to this. Just like, I mean, that's borderline kind of creeps.
I would be curious to hear your thoughts on the matter after watching season 2.
Yeah,
Which you
I mean,
probably haven't. You
I
haven't
haven't
watched
watched it yet. No.
Have you watched all of season 1?
Yes,
You
I
have
watched
seen all
all
of
the way
season.
through.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
which that I mean, that's the other thing. It's like, so it's like, it's not even just that part. It's like, when you couple that with scenes with him and Eris before she was even considered an adult in that world, and things that he would do. It's like, it's I understand your point about the chemicals and stuff like that in the brain, of course, development of children and stuff like that, but they definitely don't showcase that in this. He is the most mature person in terms of what he desires, what he pursues, what he does, and honestly, the most logically thinking out of even grown adults there. So
Mhm.
they're not really showcasing that within him and his body. I I really do, and that's even furthered by the fact of, even in a child's body, he goes through several things that you would have gone through at his age, given everything, and especially his trauma. It's like, that's just, there's a lot there's a lot that goes into that. But be it as it may, we're getting off topic for it.
Mhm.
I will say that dub is fantastic.
That dub is
Like
fantastic.
that dub is fantastic. And I didn't get all the way through the dub of Mushka Tensei, and I want to go back and watch it in dub, because one person I really want to know what he sounds like in English is the Dragon God, and
Oh, who
I don't know
voices
why. I just
him?
I wanted to know,
Let me see.
but I mean, that's a whole nother topic though. Like I said, especially after I watch it, like, maybe I need to sit down, and maybe it's just because the whole, it just kind of puts me to, okay, well, this is another reason why this is just kind of awkward. But it is one of the greatest stories. Uh, you could change the title of this to also Mushoku Tensei. Everyone should watch it, but by God, you should have your crosses handy, or whatever your religion is. Like, but actually, interestingly enough, one of the sergeants at one of the jails I work with, they they're getting into an anime binge again. They actually went through all of Reincarnated as a Slime, and they're moving on to that, and they were like, "This is good, but oh my God!" I was like, "It is." I'm gonna tell you right now, I stand by it. I think it's one of the best isekai stories I've ever read in terms of like what it is and what it's bringing, right? But there's a lot of flaws, and I can in
In
the main character,
in which
and I
one? In
really
which one?
respect it. And Mushiko Tensei,
Oh, okay,
like,
okay.
there's a lot of flaws, and I do respect it.
Well, I think
So,
that's like the whole point of the story is him. It's like it's a coming of age slash redemption for,
mm,
like, yeah. Anyway, and you're saying that one of them was watching Slime. Um,
oh no, he had just gotten through all of Slime, including the Slime Diaries, and I was like, "Oh, that's so dope! Did you watch the
Slime
movie?" He's like,
Diaries
"No,"
is so cute.
and actually, he's watching it in English now. Interesting, we're having this talk because he watched it in English this time. He watched it in Japanese when it first came out.
Mhm.
He's like, "Holy crap!" And I was like, "Yeah, yeah." Like, Slime would be one that I would stand on this topic here. Like, Slime in English is fantastic. Okay,
Mhm.
Slime
Oh
in
yeah.
English is absolutely fantastic. Black Clover in English is absolutely fantastic. Like, there's so much And so something I want to bring up in this topic, coming back to it, is I think one thing that's really helping me in the dubs are the English nuances we're seeing, like the English nuances that we're starting to see in certain dubs. For instance, we'll use slime, right?
Hmm.
So in the Japanese sub of slime, he'll be like, hey, or he might say yo or something like that, like all these different things. Like he'll be like, it's supposed to showcase his way of talking is just a little different than everybody else's. You can
Hmm.
read it, it's not too bad, right? If probably we could hear it if we understood Japanese better, right? In the
Right.
dub, slime, like, what's up, my dude? Like
Yeah.
that's totes awesome. Like and honestly, I remember the first English dub anime that started using the nuances I hear as layman talk in English, and
Hmm.
that was How Not to Summon a Demon Lord. The guild master of How Not to Summon a Demon Lord is nothing but some type of SoCal like reflection of some just basic woman. Like she'd just be like, so anyways, I'm gonna need you to totes go and clear out those gobs, okay? And it's just like that's and that is that's the guild leader.
So
She just like
so
go ahead.
how do they do it in the sub then? How is it? I guess a good example, maybe I missed what you said, but how do they for like that time I got reincarnated as slime when Rimuru is in Japanese, how do they do like the sup my dude versus, do they not even do
So
that, or is it a
they
different like?
what they'll do, and I'm sorry, like, but what they'll do is similar to what they've been doing for years, but we miss it as readers more than listeners, right?
Mhm.
Is they are using a dialect that would come from Japan, right? Or a
Okay.
word or a phrase or something like that. But we miss it because all we're
Privy
doing
to,
is reading what the yeah.
yeah, we're not privy
Mhm.
to
And
it.
so and then for the dub, they weren't actually doing that in a lot of instances, which is why sometimes back in the day, dub would, to me at least, would seem out of place,
Sure.
because it's like I'm not understanding why people are getting excited about this, and then in the dub, they're not as excited as I heard in the sub. But like in the sub, there's so much more to that situation that I don't understand because I'm not Japanese, because I
Mhm.
don't like a clear cut, I mean, this is a common thing, tales all
Mhm.
this time. In fact, there's a whole anime that we as English, like, even not even just English, even if we knew Japanese, because we weren't born in Japan and don't have a full understanding of Japanese
I
as
think
a
you're knowing
whole.
about, I know what
Yeah,
you're, Gintama.
we can't. No, not Gintama.
Oh,
I will look it up and I will say it by the end of the podcast. But actually, there is an anime that
but
it's on High
but
Dive now, and I was like, I know that anime, and then my friend pointed out we cannot watch it because we will not understand a single thing about it.
but
It is
that's
an
an
anime entirely.
but isn't
Go ahead.
Gintama sort of similar in that vein too? In a lot of like,
Gintama can be watched by English viewers and watched in English dub, and you'll still find the comedy of it because it is inane. It is absolutely just off the wall chaotic,
mhm,
and it is nothing but a parody within itself of popular anime, and it became popular, and the joke was, well, god, now what do we do now,
mhm,
there are nuances that we won't fully grasp, but we do understand Edo period if you watched any
sure,
anime back then about Rurouni Kenshin and stuff like that. But there are nuances in it that we do miss, because like the whole thing about mayonnaise, about, like, for instance, the leader of the Shinsengumi, like the current one, and his love for mayonnaise, and like he goes on this whole tirade about how much he loves the mayonnaise, and he points out like the processing and everything else, and like all this stuff, and then flavor profiles that we wouldn't understand unless you eat more Kewpie mayo over American mayo. Like, it's just
okay,
a whole so it's like little things like that, right? And but then there's an anime out there where if we were to try to watch it, we would not understand it. There's just no
okay.
way, because we do not, because there's so many meta jokes, if you will, that
Which
it's
one is
like,
that?
oh, okay. I Let me go look it up.
Yeah, go look it up. I
Yeah.
think another like interesting thing, and I've brought this up a couple times when I've talked to you, is that like yeah, I can appreciate how sometimes like how like the from and I don't want to pretend that I know something that I don't, but like I think a really good, interesting case that could be seen of like how dubbing can go slightly awry because things just don't translate particularly well. And that is there's a point in Your Name. There's a point in Your Name where oh God, why am I drawing it? Where Mitsuha is in Taki's body, right? And and there's like there's like three different ways to describe oneself as a male. Um, and she was getting them wrong. And so in the English is like she goes like is like he guy may I don't know, I can't remember it. I'd have to go back and watch the part. I feel like I should know it, but like it's really really awkward. It's actually like it is actually like once it was explained to me of how like there was no possible way that they could possibly dub it in a way that didn't seem awkward, it is now awkward for me to watch. Don't get me wrong, like it's just one part. It's just like it's 5 seconds out of like an amazing movie that like I watch only in dub. And it's just because like there's just different words in the Japanese language to describe like males, and it didn't translate well because there's no possible way to translate it. So they had to do the best that they could in that particular case. Oh, by the way, I do want to shout out Wonder Soul and the Gamer Critic are in chat. Thank you for joining us.
Yo.
Thank you for being here tonight. Wonder Soul says, "Dub baby, let's go." And Gamer Critic, he's one of those dudes that like he thinks he's king shit of fuck mountain by saying that that of being sub only.
Well, we are.
But but yeah, it's like yeah. And on the topic of Gintama, that's one that like I'm just gonna read. I'm gonna read Gintama. Like,
oh, but watching it is so great.
I don't think I can watch 400 episodes subbed.
Why not?
It would take me it would take me a long time. It would take me a long time.
They made a joke about it and actually did their own time skip to make fun of One Piece. You can literally
really?
time skip. Yes. Yes.
I still love that.
Like,
I still love that opening though, the failed opening. And he's like, "How am I supposed to do this every week?" It's like if I do, it's like I thought they just used it over and over again. It's like you're not supposed to say that. But anyway, I think there's so many people out there who are not willing to give like dubs a shot, even though so many are comparable. So many are comparable now. Like My Hero Academia is incredibly comparable. Like I know that there's Casey, you haven't talked recently. I'll let you talk here in a minute, but like My Hero Academia is incredibly comparable. I think the only voice, I think like there's a few voice, like one of the voices that I actually prefer subbed is Toga. Like I do prefer Toga subbed. But like I don't mind her dub. It's just two different ways of portraying the character. And then there was actually one thing that was also one thing that I like, the scene in Dr. Stone season 3 when Y-Man is revealed. I actually the original sub and the English dub for Gen, they portrayed the moment differently. And I prefer, like, they're both okay, but like I do prefer how the sub portrayed the moment. The sub portrayed the moment of Y-Man's reveal as more scared, whereas the English performed it as more confused. And I preferred, simply because like when I read it in the manga, I read it as them being scared. Like it sounded like Gen was scared. It didn't. So sometimes, like, and that's an interesting thing for me as a manga reader as well is that that sometimes I will read moments a certain way, and sometimes the the dub gets it the dub does it better simply because I read it a specific way. Like one of my favorite moments was when Dobby goes, "The past never dies." Like that is a line from the manga, and it it was the sub was completely different, but like that panel is so like intense and like iconic for me. The past never dies, where he's like, "The past never dies," and I was like, yes. When they did that in the dub, I was like, yes. um anyway, Casey, what are your thoughts?
Uh, so many thoughts. To be honest, I think we've also discussed this before, but I think a lot of the whole dub versus subs does stem from the fact that a lot of the people that prefer subs now used to, used to watch Toonami, used to watch all these older anime,
Mhm.
and felt betrayed because there were so many changes in our younger years, in our youthful intent of enjoying something, only to find out that they couldn't have guns in an anime, so they changed it to hammers and stuff
Yeah,
like
but
that.
Funimation fixed that. Come on.
They did. They did.
Funimation
And
fixed that.
that's my whole thing is they did, but it took so long to fix. And it took so long to fix because they didn't think that it would take off. And that I think that is still where the pain kind of lies is we were once betrayed. Now we're not willing to be betrayed again, kind of thing.
Oh
And there
no.
goes Jeremiah.
There goes Jeremiah. He'll be back. Um but no, I like they like no, I, imagine if One Piece was still on for kids, was still on kid
Oh
like
my
the kids
gosh.
WB.
That that seriously killed my love of the
Like
anime One Piece. Like
it's like so much would have to be cut. Like if
the
they One
characters
Piece is go ahead.
characters can't smoke. They have to be eating a lollipop. You can't hold guns to people's heads. So instead, it's this weird contraption like kids next door 2x4 technology
I know, right?
kind of bullet BS. So it's just like, oh my gosh. And this is an anime where they kill people. So it's like,
Yeah. Like
really you're doing this?
it gets in like it gets incredible like as someone who's read it all, um like as someone who's read it all, like the manga is incredibly graphic. Like
Mhm.
it is so violent. Like like it's almost like I've watched some bits on like I like it is like I don't think the anime could ever can ever like fully convey on how graphic like One Piece can get.
Mhm.
Um
So
and
there's things like that. Then also looking back at like Dragon Ball. I mean, they're more comedy routines now looking back at them. Like
mhm.
they couldn't say hell in Dragon Ball. So what they call it? The
The underworld, or they called it something.
no,
What
they
did
didn't even call it underworld. There was a
they
specific
that's
like
right. They actually like they what did they uh what
it,
was
it was like
hell called
HEL or
in
something like that,
Dragon
and
Ball?
they had
What
a
was hell
specific
called in Dragon Ball
acronym.
Z? HFIL. HFIL.
Home for Infinite Losers. That's right.
Yeah, that's Home for Infinite Losers is like in the edited Ocean Group dubs for and Nicktoons versions of Dragon Ball Z was on Nicktoons. Hell
Apparently.
Hell is called HFIL. This acronym is stated to stand for Home for Infinite Losers, and the ogre shirts that would say Hell were even edited to say HFIL. A bit of the E and the first of the L were digitized out.
Mhm. So it's just things like that where it's just like, that's stupid. That's dumb.
Oh, honestly, though, it's kind of funny. Like
Oh, it
thinking
is
that
funny.
thinking back on it, like that's hilarious.
Yeah,
Like,
that's what I say. Like looking back, now it's more of a comedy routine.
yeah, but
But it's like
those have all now been fixed. Thank God. Like, I mean, like on unedited Dragon Ball Z, it's all been fixed.
yeah, but that's kind of where I kind of pointing. It's like, have they been fixed? Yes. How long did it take them to get fixed though? And it's because it wasn't taken seriously, kind of thing. It was
Mhm.
just it was, a padding. It was studios, trying to do something that doesn't cost them a lot, kind of like Power Rangers, and it took off, kind of thing.
Mhm.
So that's why I'm just like, I can understand why people don't trust dubs who grew up in that
Sure.
era. At least that's where I sit, because I'm just like, I grew up in that era and I did enjoy it,
Mhm.
but after finding out a lot of my anime memories were lies, I was just like, no more, and I turned my back on English dubs.
Except for Goblin Slayer.
Exactly, and dating it and trapped in a dating sim.
Man, that like those final couple episodes of Goblin Slayer were so awesome.
They were
Like
really good.
they were like, well, of the first season. I haven't watched
Mhm.
the second season yet. But the second season just got done being dubbed apparently.
Yep,
So
that's actually why I haven't watched the second season, because
you wanted to
that-
just binge watch it all?
I wanted to binge watch it all. And as I stated earlier today, like I tried watching it with the English dub, or I tried watching it with the subtitles,
Mm-hmm.
and I just couldn't. I couldn't.
That's weird that they wouldn't it's weird that they wouldn't add that simple
That's what I'm saying. It
effect
it was
of like
really weird to me.
mm-hmm.
Like it just seems something so nonchalant, and that's why I'm just kind of amazed that, oh, yeah, this is the reason why I like the English dubs, because they actually put in these really small sounds that make the character seem more real, kind of thing.
You want to know what English dub just lives forever in my heart as just being just like it's just like the most atrocious thing ever.
Hold on. Let me try to guess.
But it's awesome. We all love it.
Naruto.
I like the dub. I like the dub for Naruto. No, I'm talking about Card Captor Sakura.
Oh my gosh, yes. Oh my gosh. That and Sailor Moon is probably like the worst. Pokemon is also up there, but like Sailor Moon and Card Captor Sakura, they changed so
They
much.
changed so much. They changed
So much.
I haven't watched them, but like I've watched plenty of videos talking about how much was changed, and
Mhm.
like they had to like I guess like in Card Captor Sakura, the main character, the main male character, is like very minor and is introduced like super late in like
Mhm.
the show, but like
Lee, I believe, right?
I don't remember what his name is, but I know that like they WB Kids WB or whatever channel that was, they like they found a way to introduce him earlier to cater to males.
There we are.
There he is.
Just as we're talking about catering to
Oh,
males, Jeremiah returns.
We're talking
there
about
it
Card
is.
Captor Sock. We're talking about Card Captor Sakura.
Oh. Oh.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. Don't have dogs. So,
Uh-oh.
like, I felt something. I was like, I don't. I'm sure y'all saw like it shake. I was like, huh? And I looked down, and one of my younger, just like, he was caught up in the cords. I mean, he looks back scared. And I was like, oh, don't you? And then just, and I'm like,
But yeah,
yep.
we were talking about Card Captor Sakura, and we were talking about how like we were also talking about how One Piece like could not possibly be on WB anymore simply because it gets so incredibly violent.
Mhm.
Oh yeah.
It just gets so violent. Like Like I feel like even the anime now is super tame compared to what's in the manga. The manga is incredibly.
Oh yeah.
It can be
Well,
super visceral at some points. Like Jesus.
well, even with Cardcaptor Sakura, you do realize that there's also a bunch of mangas stemming off from that take place in alternate worlds, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, have you heard of the anime/manga Triple X Holic?
No.
Yeah.
It's honestly a really good anime. You should watch it. It's really good. But that takes place in one of like the alternate dimensions that Cardcaptor Sakura is part of.
Oh,
And
really?
you actually do see like an alternate version of Sakura and Lee come through a portal kind of thing and
Interesting.
interact with the main characters. It is very, very interesting. But I mean, we got that. Of course, then you also have Sailor Moon, where instead of which Sailor Scouts were they? Jupiter and Neptune, or Jupiter
Uranus.
and
They were lesbians.
they were lesbians.
It's
But then
Uranus and Neptune.
okay, hey, at least I had Neptune right. All right,
You're right.
but you had those two Sailor Scouts, and because they don't want them to be lesbians, what did they do? They changed them into kissing cousins, and they literally made them
Hmm.
cousins who were a couple. So it's just like
Um,
there are times when yes, you should change things, and there are times when you shouldn't. You just really shouldn't.
you know what you know what I'm gonna like. I'm thinking about rewatching. Is the Tenchi series is
The Tenchi Muyo.
I know that there's like a ton.
Tenchi Muyo, Tenchi Universe, and the third one where Tenchi in Tokyo or whatever. I mean, I grew up on that. Like
Oh
that is,
yeah, but
bruh.
I actually remember I actually remember starting like the first episode of Tenchi Universe or Tenchi Muyo, one of those, and I was just like, oh my god, this
Mhm.
sounds so bad. I was just like, what the hell am I watching here? But I think I'm gonna rewatch it. Because that was a Toonami show back in the day. Um,
Mhm.
and I know that series kind of gets a little weird at some point, so I'm gonna have to check it out again and get reminded. Um, so Jeremiah, were you in the middle of saying anything before you before you got so rudely like cut off?
No, no. Y'all were talking, and what I was trying to do, and I'm still trying to find it. I ran across it on High Dive, and I can't remember the name now. But there is an anime that when I brought
Mhm.
it up to a friend of mine, he's like, "We can't watch," because it looked like an older style, but pretty interesting. We cannot actually watch that, and he showed me this whole thing about how there are so many deep
Mhm.
old cultural references in it that American Westerners who have never lived in Japan or grown up in Japan cannot understand it. Like you can watch it all day long, but everything will be lost to you. You're going to be literally be reading
Mhm.
like more wiki pages about it than anything else. And I'm trying to
Trying to
find it.
understand what it is.
I'm trying to remember. I remember. If I see it, I will know because I thought it was so. Anyway, but no. And then suddenly, like it moved. I was like, huh? And then Baby Schmo just, and it's like, of course.
Sounds like
So,
the no laughing game that they do in Japan. There's a lot of references that they try to trick their hosts with, and a bunch of them English speakers or people from English culture have no clue,
mm,
absolutely no clue.
So to sort of as we get into the final countdown of the show tonight, um,
Final countdown.
I would like to hear from each one of you an anime that you prefer subbed and an anime that you prefer dubbed. And I know that we've sort of all kind of like vaguely, but like I want to hear it directly right here, right now. You're more than welcome to give one or two options, but I want to hear at least one anime that you prefer subbed and one anime that you prefer dubbed. Jeremiah, let's start with you.
so for sub, an anime that I have to say, like, I have to watch it sub. It won't matter and stuff like that. That is going to be still My Hero Academia. Now understand, I respect dub, but because I'm so invested into it now, like I while watching the dub, it is good, and I could, I
Mhm.
can watch it sub. But and I definitely have a deeper appreciation for especially Bakugo's character after many of our talks. But it's just the sub still has me, and I'm so used to that
Fair enough.
style,
Mhm.
And actually, it would actually have to be the same for Demon Slayer. Again, Demon Slayer was actually, I told you, it was gonna be the harder one to convince me, and I at least have fallen in love with Senetsu so hard, and again, it's so was it isn't it is it Bryce Papenbrook that does my
Inosuke, yeah.
favorite Inosuke?
Yeah.
I love Inosuke now, and he had to grow on me with it. Tanjiro, I'm still kind of but that one is also a sub. I have to pick those two for sub, because
Okay.
it could just be because how I started.
Sure.
Dub wise though, ever since switching to dub for Jujutsu Kaisen, I have to watch it. Yeah, I have to watch it in dub. I tried going back to sub, I
Mhm.
can't, it is fantastic. Okay. And then another one, and I'm giving two with it. Another one that I would say like I could not watch it in sub. I have to watch it in dub now is Apothecary Diaries.
Okay.
Like, so these are the ones that I'm sorry, and I'm gonna throw the Black Clover.
Black
Black
Clo
Clover. I started it in sub. I watched it dub. I watched the movie in dub with
Ye
you, and I was like, hold on, I've got to start this over in dub because these guys are sick. And then it's just and everything you told me about the relationship between the voice actress
Yeah.
Noel and Asa, and it's just like I don't know, it's just that adds to it, and suddenly it's just like everything feels natural.
I
It's like
know, right? It all kind of falls into place.
oh,
And, like,
so that's my take.
you just but okay, can you at least admit, though, that, like, Chris Sabat is the perfect All Might and the perfect Yami?
Perfect All Might. He's one of the deterrents
Ooh,
of
them is
because yeah,
fighting
because
words.
they are, but I have a complicated reason, and we're at the end of your show,
Okay,
But
what's the like, can you give me Cliff Note versions of your complicated reason for why?
so Cliff Notes is because I feel like he phoned in Yami at least at the beginning of the dub.
Oh, he
Okay,
for sure phoned in
and
Yami at the beginning of the dub.
yeah, he
Mhm.
he phoned that in, and if you hear him in other dubs, such as "My Bride Is a Mermaid" as Masa, where he takes on a whole new role, he takes on a whole new like. There's so much he could have added into that role, and you could tell he was just going through the motions.
But
And because of that, and because of Masa, I can't. I expect better when you're trying to be this kind of rough and tumble.
like
So.
he embraced it later on, though.
He did. I will say that the movie, hey, that's not how you treat a damsel in distress. It's like hearing him say that. It's like, oh, he does well, and that's what I'm saying. Like, and now it's like, oh no, because
Okay, fair enough.
a
I can get
majority was
behind that.
fire. Yeah.
I can get behind that.
So
Okay, Casey, how about you?
Well, when it comes to dubs, I obviously already tipped my hand. Goblin Slayer. That one I cannot watch subbed. I tried, it did not work, so I watched that dubbed. When it comes to subs, this might be a weird one. Do you guys remember Dead Mount Death Play?
Yeah,
yes,
yeah. So you prefer that one subbed?
I prefer that one subbed. I don't like how they do the main girl in the dubs. Like I
Okay.
can stand her, but she seemed too Valley girlish, if that makes sense.
Okay. Fair
yeah.
enough.
So it's like
Um,
I can listen to them, but I prefer the subs, and I think that their voices match better with the characters.
Okay.
I guess so. And I've said this before. The show that I absolutely prefer sub. Like, I will not watch. Like I will watch the dub for this, but I will cringe the entire time. And that is, but I absolutely prefer the sub for Call of the Night over the dub, and it breaks my heart. It breaks my heart to this day. To this day, it breaks my heart. And then like, I think, and like. A show like that I absolutely have to watch dubbed. Um, Simply because there's just too much talking all the time. Not to say that the sub is bad, but Classroom of the Elite. I like there came a point where it's just like I can't watch this subbed. Like I want to stay on top of this. I want to stay on top of this, but like I can't. There's just like, and I was and before like we really like got the show started, before you showed up, Jeremiah, Casey, and I we were talking about Shangri-La Frontier. Shangri-La
Mm.
Frontier is another one that like I wanted to stay on top of it with the subs, but like there's too much happening on the screen with
Mhm.
like descriptions of like games and mechanics and what each weapon does and what ability, like it's just like text. It
The
is like,
entire screen is
and
just
like
text.
I remember I remember watching season 2 of Classroom of the Elite, and in the first couple of episodes, it was just like it's just like literally it's text upon text upon text of describing these activities that the students are going to be doing. And I was just like, because at the exact same time, and for those of you listening, I was just kind of doing like this like confused look, and but at the same time, like the characters are describing what's going to happen anyway. So all of a sudden you've got loads of text on the screen, and then you've got a loads of like subtitles down at the bottom, and it was just like, where the fuck do I look? Like, where am I supposed to look right now? So and then all of a sudden I'd be watching that same episode 2 weeks later and be like, oh, okay, I get it now. Like that's how this game works. So, but like there's a lot that I prefer to watch both on. I like watching both. I like watching both the subs and the dubs for Dr. Stone and My Hero Academia. Um, I don't know, Jeremiah. I I have an attachment to the Demon Slayer dub. I like the Demon
Hey,
Slayer dub. Uh,
that's the one that made me realize when I went into that one after My Hero, that made me realize that okay, it's probably just because it's how I experienced it in its
uh-huh.
entirety first. Because cutting halfway through Jujutsu Kaisen to go the dub
Hmm.
changed my life, and it made me have to restart Jujutsu Kaisen. Like I have to because, and Jujutsu Kaisen is another one. It's like where they explain every one of their abilities, and
Hmm.
there's a reason for it, right? But like it's happening, or they're showcasing something, and the narrator is talking. It's those times I have to agree with you where there's just a lot that's supposed to be explained to the audience, and
Hmm.
you would need to be listening to what they're saying to understand like what they're doing, while it's trying to give you this wall of you know
Hmm.
Madaraga, this is what it does. It's like, God, okay, I get it. Um, yeah, and so there are definitely I have found myself now because of you, because of reestablishing, reevaluating.
Hmm.
There is a stark difference in what I will watch sub and dub, and I can't think of too many that I will jump between the two anymore.
Sure.
Except for like old like Bleach, I'll do that
Sure.
because I did that.
Hmm.
But like Skeleton Knight in Another World, dub all the way. There's no way I could watch that sub. But there's no one that could give the same amount of energy, in my opinion, that is brought from that. So and I will say Shangri-La Frontier, we did start that and we got caught up in the English dub. That's a fantastic dub, and part of it would be the English nuances, guys. That's a whole talk within itself. But
Hmm.
yes,
Uh,
I'm loving all
what?
this.
Oh, what was I gonna say? Oh man, I had this. Um, and I think that like and I know that we're going like over here, but there's I find that like when something needs to be funny, and if and like when I'm hearing it in a language that I understand the humor of said language in, then it makes it funny for me. So like I don't know why this particular anime came up into my head, but like um uh The Devil is a Part-Timer, absolutely
Oh my
hilarious
god.
dub, like so funny. And part of it I believe it has to do with being able to understand it and then doing like anyway. um but yeah, so what were my picks? Classroom of the Elite for dub, and sub for Call of the Night. Well, to wrap things up, Jeremiah, where can we catch you?
Guys, you know who we are. We're Dude Let's Chat DLC. You can find us on YouTube at Dude Let's Chat. You can find us on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube Live whenever we're streaming and stuff at Dude Let's Chat. We are just three dudes who like talking about games, movies, and all things in between. And of course, you see me on this illustrious show, Work in Progress. Thank you, as always, for having me. It's always a pleasure.
And Casey, where can they find us?
You guys can find us right here at on YouTube with Work in Progress SLO. Go ahead and give us a talk about. We have Brent putting out some videos, and we usually try to have a podcast every week. And we love talking to you guys and saying hi.
Mm-hmm. Now, I will say that the podcast will be on hiatus for maybe 2 or 3 weeks. I'm going to be in California for a business trip in a few days. But I get to see Casey while I'm there, and we're gonna talk shop, and yeah, it'll be good. But I'm gonna be, I either record these with my gear or not at all. So the podcast will be on hiatus. But as I said at the beginning of the show, there's going to be 2 podcasts coming out on audio services such as Spotify and Apple Music this week. And so be sure to give Dudeless Chat a follow. Be sure to give us a follow. And we'll see you back here in a couple of weeks.
Be
Later,
happy
everyone.
humans.